Hello, welcome back. I'm Evaleen, founder of Awesome Training. And what we do is we offer alternatives, neuro-affirming alternatives to what other people are doing in terms of supporting autistic people, young and old. So this is the third part. If you've missed the first two, they're available to watch back, and do let us know if you're finding these helpful or if you have any questions in the comments, and we'll get back to you then. So for this session, I'm just going to maybe talk about some of the things that have come up. When I said some kids will put themselves under pressure to do something, and then you might think, well, how can they do it? I mean, if they can do it under pressure, then they can do it. But some kids will manage this through disassociation, like literally disconnecting from their physicality, from being present, and continuous disassociation can take its toll on autistic kids and can develop into much more serious mental health issues later in life, or maybe for some not so much later. So this contract is actively forcing a child to mask. But positive behaviour support doesn't take mental health and physical and emotional well-being into account, because it's only interested in behaviour management, on getting the expected results, predetermined results or rules. It's only interested in outward and instant results. It's just like ABA in that sense, just looking at from the outside what's happening. There's no measurement in PBS for inside experiences of autistic kids, because it's all behavior based. It doesn't take into account what's happening on the inside. So some other quotes from that document are: write the contract in positive language. State what you would like your child to do, not what you don't want them to do. For example, the rule should be, I will do my jobs around the house, rather than I will stop being lazy around the house. It really doesn't matter what pretend positive language is used, because the outcomes for the autistic kids are not going to be positive. Wrapping all this behavior modification up in a nice bow of positive language isn't going to change what's underneath. But unfortunately, it does manage to fool many of us, parents and professionals, into thinking that we're doing no harm, because it sounds so positive. If we word it positively, then it is just positive. And anyone using lazy in the context of neurodivergent or disabled kids is just plain out of line. Shouldn't even be in this document. Shouldn't even be in our heads. And if we're looking for a little bit more hypocrisy, well, here it comes. Remember, the point of developing a behavior contract with your child is to motivate him or her, them, to engage in behavior that you want to see more of, and to increase accountability. Sitting down and planning the agreement with your child will include him or her in decisions relating to his or her life. Will it? Really? How? This process teaches important negotiation skills that will support your child with relationship building throughout his or her life. Sounds lovely. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that using these rewards and punishments on children help them to negotiate? Because if we listen to Alfie Cohen, he tells us that children don't make decisions by being told what to do. They make decisions by making mistakes. And there's very little room for actually negotiating in any of this, really, is there? Because how can you negotiate when someone else holds the power? When you know you have to do the thing, you don't have a choice. Like, how can a child navigate that and negotiate that? We're literally taking away their advocacy, taking away their autonomy. So what's left in terms of negotiating? Only to submit and comply. So let's break this down a little bit. So remember, the point of developing a behavior contract with your child is to motivate him or her to engage in the behavior that you want to see more of. And there it is. This whole thing just gave itself away with that sentence, because it isn't about what the child wants for themselves. It isn't about the child's needs. It's what behavior you want to see more of. So it's there. The contract is for the benefit of the adult, not the child. And this is couched in a made-up statement with no real scientific backing, because we know that children subject to these behaviour plans do not do better in negotiating or making decisions. It's actually kind of learned helplessness for a lot of kids, becoming dependent on others to tell them what to do, becoming people pleasers, doing whatever others want of them. Sitting down and planning the agreement with your child will include him or her in decisions relating to his or her life. This process teaches important negotiation skills that will support your child with relationship building throughout his or her life. Well, if relationship building is complying with the needs of the other person in the relationship, yeah, that will teach them that. Absolutely. Yeah, teach them to be very easily manipulated, to have no boundaries, to not be able to stand up for themselves, to not be able to say no, to not realize that I have a choice in this, because we've taught them all their childhood that they don't have a choice and that they're not in charge of their own bodies and they're not in charge of their own lives. So yeah, if you want your child to have those kind of relationships, this will absolutely support that. You want your child to have healthy relationships, to be able to say no, to know themselves, to have strong boundaries, to have a good life. And this is not the approach. Because we know children will do well when they can. We were all children, all of us. We remember what it was like. That feeling when you know you let someone down, and maybe you did something without thinking, or whatever, you just didn't know any better. It's a horrible feeling. And that feeling motivates us to do better. Our internal, intrinsic system will teach us that, will help us and will guide us. Why would we need exterior rewards and punishments? Children want to be loved, they want to be accepted, and they want to please their parents and people around them, while also minding themselves, minding themselves and knowing that they have a right to say no, and that they have a right to have their needs met and not to be put under pressure to be constantly doing things. Making a child feel like a failure for non-compliance and teaching them that their needs come second is not helping any child to succeed. It's not. So many of us adults don't even realize that we don't have to put up with pain, that we don't have to put up with sensory onslaught, that we don't have to do the things, And how many times I've had conversations with autistics and we're like, that's a thing? You mean I don't have to put up with this? You mean I don't have to? And why? Because some of us had these approaches as kids, but society teaches us this as well. It teaches us we won't let you in unless you do and behave and do the things we want you to do, behave in a way that we want you to behave. Don't do weird things, don't have weird interests, definitely don't be direct and honest. And we shape ourselves in all of that, and we know what masking does to us, and we know the negative effects that all this stuff has on us. And if you just ask us, we can explain to you why positive behavior support is not really supportive or positive. I'm just going to leave you with a quote from Alfie Kohn. If you want to know about better ways to parent or to school or whatever, interact with people, definitely check out Alfie Kohn's books or resources. His quote is, punishment and reward proceed from basically the same psychological model, one that conceives of motivation as nothing more than the manipulation of behavior. So there you have it. I hope this has been helpful, that it's kind of flagged things to you that It sounded good, sounded reasonable, sounded helpful for a child. But when we really drill down into them and we start looking from different angles, we can see that they're really not. So I also want to say, if you have been misguided and trusted the experts or, people who told you this is the best way to support a child, whether you're a teacher or a teaching assistant or an SMA or a parent or a professional, I think it's always important to remember, to paraphrase Maya Angelou, when we know better, we do better. There's no value in beating ourselves with sticks and giving out to ourselves for things we did when we didn't know better. The important thing is that we learn and we move on and that we start doing better. So thank you so much for joining me. Do let me know if you'd like to hear more of this. If you have any questions, let me know. We're always here to help. And thanks again for joining me.